Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. Today we will continue our lab, the transformers. This is the video number 39. Okay, in the previous video we have been discussing, still continuing our subject or topic concerning the WSUS, which is an abbreviation, as I said before, for Windows Server Update Services. In the previous video we have been discussing a problem to be solved, that some workstations or servers can't communicate with the WSUS, and it's giving an error number, a certain error number, and we have seen in the previous video that this was solved because the workstation that was trying to communicate with the WSUS, it was having a proxy. So we have unchecked this proxy setting, and we have been discussing in the previous video what a proxy means. Okay, and in the previous video also, after solving the problem of this workstation that can't communicate to WSUS, after removing the proxy setting, the workstation have successfully communicated with the WSUS and registered itself as the WSUS. Okay, as I said before, it registered itself in the default computer groups in the WSUS console, which is unassigned computers, and then we have changed its location from unassigned computers to CompoBots, which is another WSUS computer group that contains all of our workstations in the domain. And in the previous video also we have been discussing that we are or that we have set up a SQL 2019 database, and we have, after set up the SQL 2019 database, we have set up a hotfix for it. All of this we are preparing ourselves to migrate or to change the WSUS database type from Windows internal database to SQL 2019. Okay, this is a brief, okay, why we are doing this. Okay, here we can see that here is our server, okay, that contains the WSUS role, and the WSUS contains a database which is called, or its type is Windows Internal Database. This database is used to record everything related to updates and computers. For example, this database contains how many updates the WSUS have downloaded, how many updates was approved, how many updates was declined, how many computers are registered to the WSUS, how many computers are up to date. They don't need any updates. So that's what I mean, that they are all updated. There is no computers that still need any updates. All of these are recorded in Windows, or a database type called Windows Internal Database. Okay, and from this database you can run reports and get everything concerns the updates and computers in this database. Okay, so this database has some limitation. The database size for the Windows Internal Database only is 254 gigabyte limit size, so you can't increase it more than that. And to access this database, you need to access it through a command prompt or a black screen, and to run commands, so you can change something in the database, to make some maintenance or maintenance task to this database. For example, you need to make some re-index to the database. You need to make some cleanup to the database. You need to make you need to remove something or delete something from the database. All of this are done through a command prompt or a black screen with some commands. A brief note or a brief thing about the tasks that can be run on this database. I said re-indexing. Re-indexing, by simple words, this is a way that you can make the database performance more faster. Okay, or so when you access the database, it's much more faster. Okay, as by time when the database grows up, the database or the access to the database becomes slow. Okay, so the re-indexing job makes the access to the database faster, which reflects, or which will be reflected to the performance of the WSUS server as a whole. Okay, so all of this maintenance job or re-indexing and cleanup, there is also a cleanup job that you need to clean up your database for the WSUS from the declined updates. For example, you have approved some updates and you have declined some updates, so the declined updates is not needed anymore, so you need to clean them up so you can free some space on the database, and also maybe sometimes you need to compress the database. All of these are jobs, okay, which can't be done or can't be created unless you use the SQL command prompt or black screen with commands. So this is very difficult to administer or not easily used. So you need to be a professional database administrator, so you can be able to do or to work with command, not with graphical interface. So this was the 3 limitations for this database. So what we have done in the previous video, that we have the same WSUS role, and we have installed a SQL database 2019. What is this the advantages of this SQL database 2019 on, or which is more or have more advantages than Windows internal database? First of all, the performance is better. Okay, you have a graphical interface. You can make database maintenance, database cleanup, database reindexing from a graphical interface, which is more easier to handle than with a command prompt, as I said before. And also you can, you have a graphical interface, you can access the database more easily, and you can make all of the maintenance jobs and cleanup jobs. All of this is done much easier. Okay, and as I said before, this tool, or it's called Management Studio tool, SQL Management Studio, this is a graphical interface, and the database limit size is more than 254 gigabytes, so you can increase your database more than 254 gigabytes. Okay, so this is the advantages of SQL 2019 database on the Windows internal database. So in the previous video we have set up this database. We have done all of the configuration needed for it. Okay, and we have created an Active Directory user account to run all of the SQL database services. Okay, and as I said before, this service account is have a strong password. Its password will not expire. Please, if you need to to know more about what we have discussed in the previous video, please return to it and view it. Okay, so but this is basically a brief what we have done in the previous video. This is the WSUS and the database and the workstations, and the WSUS is distributing updates to the workstations. So in the previous video we have created the SQL database and done all of the necessary configuration. In this video we will migrate this database of Windows internal database to SQL 2019 database. So this is briefly what we have done in the previous video. So let's continue. So the migration process that we will do in this video, I have got it, or I have viewed another video, or I used a reference video for an IT guy called Justin Shaw. He is from a company called Patch My PC. This IT guy have made this video, and I used it typically, or I have followed his instructions to how to migrate a WSUS database from Windows internal database to SQL 2019 database. Okay, so I will put a reference to his video. This is very simple, and he is very professional one, and I used it as a reference to what I will do in this video. So please refer to it, and very well job done by Justin Shaw. Okay, so here we have a folder that I named it WSUS reindex and maintenance job. After we migrate the WSUS database, we will do some to be a SQL. After we migrated from Windows internal database to SQL 2019, we will do some jobs concerning reindexing and maintenance job. Until we do this will be in the upcoming video, but I have this folder that contains all the scripts and the things that we will need to create reindex jobs, maintenance jobs, cleanup jobs. All of this are in one folder. It will be in the transformers folder that will be on a Google Drive link in the description section in the video in my YouTube channel. Okay, so just to take note. doing some cleanup because I have already installed the SQL 2019, so I'm just deleting the folder that contains the ISO image or the DVD because it's taking space and I need everything or every gigabyte in the hard disk because I have a limited hard disk space. It's only 1 tera, so it's you have to use it wisely, and I have a lot of virtual machines. So now we will begin the process of migration of the WSUS Windows internal database to SQL. We will do this through a couple of PowerShell scripts, okay, and we will disable some services. Here, before we do this, we need to go and check to see how many updates we have, and there we have, for example, here let's have a look. While we do this, we have to count our updates, because after migration we will check again if the database was successfully migrated. How we know that it is successfully migrated? By comparing the number of updates before and after the migration. Okay, so here we will see the unapproved updates. Okay, here we can see that let me make a small refresh. Now we have almost 489 updates. Yes, 480 updates. Just take note of this number because we will check the number of updates after the migration. So now we need to open, or first of all we need to open a command or a PowerShell command prompt. We will right click the PowerShell and run as administrator, the PowerShell icon, and then we right click and then run as administrator. The first command that we will put is a command. Let's show you all. The first command that we will use is something to tell us from the PowerShell what type of, or what are the components of the WSUS service that we have installed. Okay, it will give us what components we have installed for WSUS and what type of database that we are using. We will use this step to just check and confirm that we have really a Windows internal database database type for the WSUS, just to make sure, because maybe someone tells that it's already SQL, so we need to make sure, or need to check before migrating, that you already have a WSUS components. Check the components that you have installed for WSUS and what type of database the WSUS is using. We will know all of this through a command that will, this is called get Windows feature name updates asterisk. So here we will type this command, or we will check with this command. Okay, right click and then enter. So it's executing the command. So here let's have a quick okay, now it's paused. Here we can see that it's telling us that we have Windows Server Update Service installed and we are using a Windows internal database. Okay, this is the one, and we have installed the WSUS services. Okay, and we have some we have the console for the WSUS installed, and the PowerShell for the WSUS installed, and the user interface for the WSUS. It's by the way, all of this is telling us we have the WSUS server role installed, and this role consists of an internal database and some services and some tools, okay, to check the WSUS, and some PowerShell commands also that work with the WSUS, and a graphical interface for the WSUS, so we can manage it. Okay, so from this command we can confirm that we have already a Windows internal database used for the WSUS. Here we can see update is WIDDB. Okay, so all of this is installed. This is, we will, after migrating, we will change from WID to SQL Server connectivity. Okay, we will change from WID to SQL Server, and this is available, it's not installed. All of the other components are installed, so take note. So we need, before migrating to the migrating the WSUS database from the Windows internal database to SQL, also there is another thing to make sure that our WSUS is using a Windows internal database. Something in the registry key, we will check here from HKey local, and we'll check from Microsoft. This is another step. We can confirm that the WSUS is having a Windows internal database from the Powershell and also from the registry. Okay, a certain registry key. Just a moment. I think I'll deposit real quickly. No, it's not here. Okay, again. Okay, this is the key. It's HKey local machine software Microsoft update services server setup. Here we can see that the SQL server name, it's named Microsoft asterisk WID. That confirms that the WSUS is working with a Windows internal database. And also another thing here, we can confirm also from the setup and then from the installed role services. We can see that update services WID database. This is another confirmation that we are using a Windows internal database type. Okay, from the setup and from the installed role services. Okay, so now before beginning the process, we need to make sure that no one will not be able to connect to the WSUS, because this is a critical process. So we need to disable or to deny access to our database, to our WSUS console and database as well. Okay, because we will migrate the database. So we will stop the WSUS service, stop service, and then WSUS service. So before the migration, we need to stop all of the services concerning the WSUS, and also disable or to deny any access to the WSUS itself. How we can do this? By disabling all of the services of the WSUS. First of all, we will stop the service called WSUS service. Okay, and then this is stop the service WSUS, and then we will open the services, and I can show you where is this service. Here we can see that the WSUS service is not running. This is very critical. Before migrating the database, you need to make sure it is stopped, and then there is another process to complete, or another process to make sure that no one will access the WSUS and the WSUS database from the clients or the workstations. For example, we will open the IIS manager. Okay, and then we will go to the, basically this step, it's saying, or we will do that, we will deny any access to the WSUS website. Okay, So no workstation, no server will be able to communicate with the WSUS. The WSUS works like a website. It's have if you, for example, have google.com. Google is a website, okay? So also if you want to reach Google, you have just to open a browser and type google.com, okay? So as for the client, the same goes. If he wants to connect to the WSUS, he needs to type http, the name of the server, okay, or www. Like Google, exactly like typing Google, he will type the name of the server in the browser, and then port 8530, he will go to the server, or go to the, or communicate with the WSUS. So to make sure that no one will be able to access the WSUS or the WSUS database while migrating our database, so we will disable the WSUS service and we will disable the WSUS website, okay? So here we will disable it. Right click and manage website, and then stop, and then we will go to the something called application pool, and we will stop something called WSUS pool, okay? This is another thing. So by disabling the WSUS service and the WSUS website, now we have completely confirmed that no one will be able to access the WSUS or the WSUS Windows internal database until we finish migrating it to a SQL database. So now we will open our Management Studio. The Management Studio that we have installed in the previous video, and through this Management Studio we will connect to the WSUS Windows internal database, but this is not, we will not do it now. So first thing, before migration, first thing we have done, we have checked that we have already a WSUS with a Windows internal database from the Powershell and then from the registry key, and then we have stopped the WSUS service and the WSUS website, so no one can be able to access the WSUS server or WSUS database. Now after doing this, we will go to the SQL Server Management Studio, and then through this SQL Management Studio we will connect to the WSUS Windows internal database. Why to do this? Because we will do a critical step. Okay, just a minute. First of all, what is the name of the WSUS, or so what is the name of the WSUS Windows internal database name? This is the name. As I said before, if you remembered my previous video, when you installed SQL 2019, the name of the database by default will be MSS SQL Server, okay? The name for the Windows internal database for the WSUS, its name is Microsoft / or ** WD. How to connect to this database? We will use our SQL Management Studio and type this line, so we can be able to connect to the database of, or the Windows internal database for the WSUS. Why we are doing this? Because we will deattach database. What we mean by deattachment, we will make it offline, okay, because the database now is online. So if you want to migrate, you need first to make this database offline, okay? It's not working. We have already stopped the WSUS services and access to the WSUS, but still the database is available for anyone to access it, okay? Okay, the clients will not do it, or the clients will not be able to do this, even the servers, but if anyone for any reason have another utility and use it, he can access to the database. And also the migration will not be available until we make it offline, and then we, after make the WSUS internal database offline, we will, after make it offline, we will take it and migrate it to the SQL. So need to go to the Management Studio, SQL Management Studio, and connect to the Windows internal database of the WSUS and make it offline, and then after make it offline, we will migrate it to SQL 2019. So let's do it. Here we will connect to the database by this, and then connect. think we can run it. Okay, just a minute. So now we have connected to the Windows internal database for the WSUS. So then we will go under the databases. Okay, and then so now here is the SUSDB. This is the database for the WSUS. We will right click and make it offline. How we can make it offline? By right click and saying deattach. Okay, deattach means, in simple words, make it offline. Okay, right click and then tasks. Okay, it's not taking offline, by the way, sorry, because there is another thing called taking offline. By deattach we mean that we will make it offline and make it not visible in the console of the SQL Management Studio. Okay, so we are doing two things. We are make it offline and we are making deattach it or make it not visible in the SQL Management Studio. Okay, I think deattach. Okay, just a minute, because I think the reference, because I don't think that deattach means taking offline. What does deattach database mean? Deattach removes it from the SQL server but leaves the database intact with all its data and transactions. These files can be used to attach the database to any instance, including the server. Okay, by simple words, we will take it offline and we will not make it visible in the SQL console. Okay, so this is basically what we are doing, but simply it's like taking it offline. Okay, but the main difference between deattach and offline, that when you make it offline it will still be visible in the console. Okay, but by deattach we will make it offline and it will not appear in the console. Okay, so here we go. So right click and deattach database. So now we will click drop connections. If anyone is connected to the database, it will drop the connection. Okay, and then click OK. So here we are confirming the database by dropping the connection that no one is connected to it before taking it offline. Okay, so now it's disappeared and it's offline and it's not appearing in the console. So now here is, we will go to the location of this database in the Windows folders. Okay, it's where is the location of this database? It is in Windows, WID and then data. Here is, this is the two files that contains the WSUS database, susdb it's I think it's I don't know the extension, I think, but these are the two items for the database. One is the database and other is the log for the database. Okay, so we'll copy them and put them in a location. Okay, that after that we will tell the SQL server that here is the new location, or here is the database that we will use, or what is the database that will migrate to SQL 2019. So here we will go to the F folder and we will make a new folder and name it WSUS database, and put these two files that we have copied in this folder, and after that, or after the complete migration, we will tell the management studio, or we will tell the database of the SQL through the management studio that here is your new database. So now we have copied the two files for the WSUS Windows Internal Database. We will go to the console of the Management Studio, or the SQL Management Studio, and then we will connect to our SQL database. Remember, guys, that we have our SQL database is called MS SQL. Okay, this is our SQL database. So we need to connect to this database and then insert this WSUS database in it. Okay. So now we will open a new connection. Okay, we tell him connect, and then database engine, and then we will connect to our, here is the name of our SQL server database. This is the name of our SQL server, sorry, this is the SQL server name. Okay, but the SQL server database is called MS SQL server. Okay, so we will connect to our SQL server database, and then we will attach, or again will attach the WSUS internal database in it and make it online, but in the SQL server database. Okay, we will see this in a moment. Here now we will go here. We will take the location of the Windows, this is the two files of the WSUS database. We will tell our SQL Management Studio, or our SQL server, that this is the new location of your WSUS database. Okay, he will go to the databases, okay, and then attach this database to it. Okay, so here we have migrated our WSUS Windows Internal Database from internal database, and it's now in the SQL, or its type now it's a SQL database. So basically what we have done, we have connected to the Windows Internal Database and make the WSUS Windows Internal Database offline and deattach it, and then connect it to our SQL Server database. Okay, and then we will insert the WSUS database in it. So by inserting it in inserted the WSUS database in the SQL Server database, now it is migrated. Okay, so now we tell him attach, and then we will add the location. We tell him the location of the database, the two files that we have copied. It will take, I think, a little bit of time, so we can run it quickly. So just a minute. Here we're telling the location. Here is the location, and there is the database. It's MDF. So we'll click on it, and then OK. So now we have migrated the database, okay, from a Windows internal database to a SQL database. We have taken, or have changed the WSUS from a Windows internal database to a SQL database. So now the next step is to make some changes in the WSUS configuration, so it will be able, or we can be able to make it up and running again. So now the migration process for the database, or the section for the migration process, is done. We will make some changes to the WSUS configuration, so we can tell the WSUS server that now your database type is changes from WID to SQL. Okay, and after telling this to the WSUS, or after telling the WSUS this by changing each configuration, then we will start all of the services for the WSUS. Okay, so we can make it up and running again. So can you just see a moment? We can now, just a minute. Now we will close it. Now we can return to our WSUS website and we can make it online again. As I said before, the clients connect to the WSUS like we are connecting to Google. It's a website, so we are making this website online again. It was offline, and then we will take the pool, the WSUS pool, right click and start. Okay, so now the WSUS is online. Okay, and then we will make some changes to the WSUS configuration. We will tell the WSUS that now your database type is changed from WID to SQL. Okay, because if we didn't do this, the WSUS will still connect to the Windows internal database. Okay, we needed to connect to our new WSUS database, which is SQL database. Now we will start also the WSUS service. We are reversing our steps if you are following up. So now we have returned the WSUS website on again, or online, and then we have started the WSUS service. So now we will go to the PowerShell and change the configuration of the WSUS to use a SQL. Here we will change it to use a SQL Server connectivity, not a WID connectivity. This is very critical. Okay. So now we tell him to remove, first of all, we will remove the Windows internal database. We can see the feature of the Windows internal database here. Just a minute. Here we are. This command will tell the WSUS that you are not using a Windows internal connectivity anymore. Okay, we will not use this option. We are using a SQL Server connectivity. So we will tell by this command to remove this feature, and there with the other command we will tell him to install this feature, which is SQL Server connectivity. Okay. So now it is success. It have already been removed. So now we will install the feature of SQL connectivity. Okay. So basically we are telling the WSUS that you now will use a SQL Server database instead of a Windows internal database. Okay. I think it will take a little bit of time, but we can pause it real quickly. So now just a minute. Here we can see that now it is success. It has already installed the SQL Server connectivity, and then we will run again the command that you have run in our beginning of the video, get Windows feature update servers, to make sure that our selection is there. We have, if you can give me a moment. Here we can see that the WID or the Windows database was removed and the SQL Server connectivity is added, and all of our services are installed now, except for example the Windows internal database. So now we have confirmed that the WSUS is changed from a Windows internal database to a SQL Server connectivity. We will check not only from the PowerShell, but we will go to the registry key that we have checked from the beginning of the video and see if it also says that we have our WSUS using a SQL database. We will see that in a moment. So we'll run okay, and we will go to the registry key, and then we will go to the setup. Here we can see that it's still saying that it is Windows internal database. We need to make a small refresh. Okay, so it that it can see that it's using a SQL. And here is the WSUS folder that the WSUS installs or use the this folder to download the Windows or Windows Microsoft updates. So here we will run a little command, okay, because still, even though we have tell the WSUS that we are using a SQL server conductivity, but still we need to run a small command so we can confirm, okay, or we tell the WSUS where is the location of this database. Here we told him that we have a SQL database, but he still doesn't know where is the location of this database, okay. So by this command we will tell him the database is in this location, okay. And then after that we will go to the registry key to see if it is changed or not, okay. Here I am changing the directory. So basically here in the PowerShell you can see that it's saying that it's using a SQL server, but in the registry still it's using the internal database. So still there is a missing step. We need to make another change in the WSUS configuration to tell him where is the location of the WSUS SQL database, okay. So here now I am going to location called program. Here I am changing the directory from the C to C program files, and then I think just a minute. Okay, here I am changing to C program files update services tools, okay. Here I am changing the location or the directory from the C to this C program files, this location. Why I am doing this? Because in this location or in this destination we will use the command, or there is a file that we will use, okay, to change the configuration of the WSUS server, telling it where is the new location of your database, which is a SQL database. Here is the command. It's in this location, or in the location that I have changed it to now in the C program files update tools whatsoever. Here is the program, and then here is the command that we will use. We are telling him basically that here is your, if you need to connect to the WSUS database, this is the name of the SQL server, okay, and this is the full name of the SQL server, okay, which is the domain controller name, okay. It's here I'm telling him this is your name, or this is your SQL server that you, if you want to connect to the WSUS database, you need to connect to this SQL server, okay. And from inside, okay, he will go to the SUSB database, which is the database for the WSUS, okay. So I'm basically here I'm telling him connect, that you have your database. Here is the SQL server name, okay, and in the other line it's telling him that the database for the WSUS is named SUSB, okay. So now it is it's executing the command. I think I have something here, just a minute. I think I have something missing here, just a minute guys, because say I have mistaken something. Here is the data, and this is the sorry, this is the tools, and then this is the transformers, and then this is the, sorry, this is the maintenance, just a minute, maintenance, and then this is the line number 4, okay. Okay, SQL instant and direct should be changes for your environment. Okay, this is, yes, okay, it's correct. I'm using the correct is saying you that the SQL instant name you so change it, and the content directory. So basically what I am doing here in this video, or sorry, in this command, I am telling him, just a minute, we can get a little bit further again, just a minute. Here I'm telling him that my SQL Server database, or my SQL Server name is HP whatsoever, the name of the domain controller, and the location of the WSUS updates, or the WSUS server file contents, is in FWSUS, or sorry, the WSUS updates are in FWSUS. Okay, content directory, the directory or the location where the WSUS is configured is in FWSUS, and the SQL Server database or the SQL Server name is HPGen whatsoever. Okay, so this is content directory, this is the location where the WSUS is installed. Okay, and this is, I am telling him the database, the SQL Server name is this name. Okay, so now it's telling, or it's configuring. So now it's finished. If we go to our registry key, we can see that it had already changed it from Microsoft ##WID. It will be changed to SQL. Okay, just a minute. Here we can see it changed to the SQL Server name. Okay. Sorry guys, the Microsoft ##WID, this is the name of the SQL, the name of the Windows Internal Database. As for the database of the WSUS itself, it's named SUSB, and as for the SQL Server name for the SQL database, it's the name of the domain controller, and as for the database itself, it's SUSB. Okay, so now we have already successfully migrated the WSUS internal database to a SQL database. So now we can open our WSUS and check if the number of the updates that you have noted in the beginning of the video, it's 480 updates. We need to check and see if the number of updates is the same. Okay, just a minute. So we can go this little bit further. So now we can go to the updates. Okay, we will go and check if our updates, we can see our updates. So the SQL or any database have two things, guys, or two parts. Here if you go to the updates, we can see that's 480 updates. Every database has two things: the name of the server that contains the database. So in our example, the name of the server, or the name of the database server. Okay, in our example for the Windows Internal Database, the name of the server of the database, it's Microsoft ##WID, and the database of the WSUS, it's called SUSB. As for the SQL 2019, the name of the SQL server will be the name of the domain controller, and the name of the database itself, it's SQL server. Okay, here we can see that it's 480 updates. So we have successfully migrated the database from a Windows Internal Database to a SQL database. So our WSUS is working now with a SQL database. In the next video we will see how we can make some maintenance jobs for the WSUS database, okay, and how we can make it in a task to be a regular task. So in the next video we will discuss how to make some reindex, some cleanup, some custom cleanup, and a lot of things, and how we can make it automatically done in regular intervals or time, or to be a regular task to be done by the Windows automatically. So hope this video was informative for you, and I would like you all to thank you for viewing. As I said, guys, the database, before going, the database have two things: the name of the server that contains the database and the name of the database itself. For the WSUS Windows Internal Database, the name of the server that contains the WSUS database was Microsoft ##WID, and as for the database name for the Windows Internal Database, it was SUSB. As for the SQL 2019, the name of the server that contains the SQL database, it is the name of the domain controller, and as for the database name of the SQL 2019, it's MSS SQL server. Okay, so just a note. Thank you all for viewing.